Okay, meeting's called to order. Natalie, may we have roll call, please?
Chairperson Phil Goldstein.
Here.
Vice Chairperson Marty Jost.
Here.
Commissioner Lisa Bard.
Here.
Commissioner Jeremy Holt. Commissioner or alternate Wendy Newland. Here. Alternate Mike Lewis.
Here.
Thanks.
No, I was
Well,
wrong. Commissioner Tom Wood.
When Lisa's microphone still doesn't work. I don't know if we've. She used Tom's last time, but do you want to move down to? Yeah, I just always mindful of the thousands of people out there around the world that are watching and can't hear. Can you still share Tom's? All right.
Sorry.
Okay, commissioners, any amendments to the agenda? No. Determination of alternate voting. Kevin, do you recall who voted last? Last time we had all hands on deck, so I think it's Wendy again. Yeah, I thought so. Okay, thank you. Glad somebody keeps track of these things. So Wendy, you'll vote in lieu of Jeremy tonight. Public comment. This is an opportunity for anybody that wants to address the commission on anything that is not on the agenda. Some of the agenda, all the agenda items we have public hearing. When Natalie, has anybody signed up for general public comment? No, anybody that wanted to speak? No? Okay, very good. And we'll close the general public comment. The consent agenda consists solely of the approval of the July 18th, 2023 meeting minutes. Commissioners, any additions or corrections to the minutes?
No.
Okay, hearing none, do I have a motion on the consent agenda
So moved
to approve?
to approve.
Okay, I presume. Okay, do I have a second? Second. We have a motion, a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The consent agenda is approved. Business items, item 6A, Drayley subdivision final plat. Chad, turn that over to you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Let me get this on screen real quick for you. So as you mentioned, item 6A, hold on here, is for the Drayley subdivision final plat. This final plat proposal was for Drayley subdivision. The owner is CCW Development LLC. The applicant is Hartford Homes, represented by Wendy Cudmore and Dave Thorpe. The subject property is generally located at the northwest corner of River Pass Road and 3 Bell Parkway. And just a brief background of the property and where we are today. This is the final stage of the major subdivision review process, the final plat. The property was annexed to the town and zoned in R2 single family residential in June of last year. Since then, the applicant has completed a plan development overlay, sketch plan, and preliminary plat, getting us to this stage. The final plat proposes to provide 111 single-family residential detached lots within the 33.34 acre site. Of the 111 proposed parcels, 27 are intended to be constructed as rear loaded, providing a transition from the trailside development to the north. The gross density for this area will be 3.3 dwelling units, complying with the R2 zoning district, which allows for a maximum of 4. The minimum lot size shown on the final plat is 3,800 square feet, and the max is 7,049, with an average lot size of approximately 5,610 square feet, which conforms with the approved Drayley PD overlay. I don't have a landscape. The plat is proposing roughly 33% usable open space within the development, exceeding the town's open space requirement of 20%. The plan includes a neighborhood park approximately 4 acres in size that is centrally located to the development. And the proposed park is meeting the minimum requirement for single-family residential development with less than 300 dwelling units. The application was reviewed against the Drayley preliminary plat, sketch plan, and PD overlay, in addition to the Timnath Land Use Code technical criteria manual and master drainage plan. So in review, staff is moving to recommend approval of item 6A. With that, I will turn it over to Ryan McBreen with Norris Design to give a little more background on the intent and design of the development.
Oh, okay. There we go. Perfect. All right. Thank you. Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Ryan McBreen with Norris Design, 244 North College Avenue, Fort Collins, Colorado. We're excited to be here tonight. First, I'd like to thank Chad and the rest of town staff for all their efforts to get us here tonight. We started this project a while ago, and it's great to finally be here before you tonight. So Chad did a great job covering some of the high level items. We just want to touch upon a few other points and just share some kind of stuff we're excited about with this project. I think everybody's familiar with where the project is right now. As previously mentioned, we started this process early in 2022, annexation zone, sketch plan, and followed by preliminary plat. And obviously we're here for the final plat tonight. So you all are familiar with this project a little bit. You've seen it, and you know it's consistent with what we've always been talking about for this property. Another item to point out is its relation to Trailside, which is directly to the north of it, under development right now by Hartford Homes. And the idea for this project is to be a continuation of Trailside community. It has been annexed into that metro district, so it's going to be part of the greater Trailside community as it goes forward and develops. Chad did a great job covering kind of the details of the final plat, consistency with, the guiding documents for the project. Single family lots at 111 total, density within the range we're permitted. And one thing we wanted to point out is during our preliminary plat hearing before you all, there were some concerns and questions about grading and drainage for the project. I want to say we went back to the drawing board, but we took a closer look at that, worked with town staff, our project engineer who's here tonight. If there's further questions about that, kind of revisited that to make sure it's the best solution we could come forward with. So we think we've addressed that more than adequately in the plan set tonight, but are happy to talk about that further if there's further questions about that. Kind of the fun stuff, right? So here's a rendered version of the plan. It's a mix of single family front load homes as well as alley loaded homes located kind of on the northeast corner of the project. Access will be from River Run on the south and through the Trailside community on the north. Future access is provided for on the west side. That will be accommodated once that area develops and who knows when. Direct access out to 3 Bells is not proposed at this time. Overall landscaping meets and exceeds town of Timnath standards for this, water-wise and high quality and aesthetically pleasing that fits in with the community in this part of Timnath is provided. And then the final part, kind of the most exciting part of the project is the 4-acre central park in here. We're really excited about this. Everybody's aware of the Draley barn that's out there right now. Plan is to preserve that as part of the development and make that the anchor for this community park. That and the the milking shed, which is directly behind it. You can't see it in this picture. It's gonna be very cool. Large green open turf area for playing games and whatever activities you want to do, as well as play services and play areas for kids and families to enjoy. And then also an area where we could do food trucks and that. So we've envisioned this to be a greater community gathering point for the community. The barn itself will eventually be a community area, potentially a picnic pavilion and that sort of thing, a usable space. Kind of working through the details of that. Hartford Homes could explain a little bit further as they're kind of figuring out the logistics of how that's going to work. But ideally, that will be a usable space as well. So we're really excited that we can save this iconic landmark in this area and integrate it into this greater community. So overall, architectural, it's going to carry the Trailside design aesthetic, and provide a variety of residential housing types and options. So we think it's going to fit in great with this part of the community and just be a continuation of great projects that are already in this part of the city, town. That concludes our presentation. It was brief, kind of touched upon a lot of different things, but our project team, Hartford Homes, our project engineer, we're all here to answer any and all questions you might have about the project. But we kindly ask for your support and recommendation of approval for this tonight, and thank you for your time.
Okay, thanks, Ryan. Ryan, go ahead and sit down. There's an opportunity for public comment on this. Has anybody signed up for public? There is. Okay, so here's the Hartford team certainly knows our process. If you could take some notes on anything that comes up during public comment, and then we'll bring any or all the members of the team up to see if what we can address, if possible, we will try and address those things. Some we can, some we can't. As always, we'll close, and after we open public comment, we'll close public comment, bring you up and have you address those things, and then we'll bring it up here to the commission. So Wendy, Dave, Ryan, you know the process. So Natalie, who is signed up for public comment first?
Bill Jenkins.
Thank you. Bill Jenkins, 5507 Sugarloaf Court. I live directly across from this property, and I'm supportive of the final plat and this project. I think Hartford Homes has done a really nice job with the trailside development, and it looks like they're going to continue that. I'm also really pleased that the that the red barn is being preserved, and I wasn't aware that the milking shed was going to be preserved as well. That's really cool. The one comment I have is that there are a number of mature cottonwood trees on the property surrounding the red barn and the house that's currently there. A number of them clearly are damaged and need to be removed, but a couple of them look like they're pretty healthy. And in the past, those have been spots where barn owls, great horned owls have hung out. The neighborhood has heard them hooting at night at times, and we've seen them on our rooftops as well. And so my only question is there a chance that at least one of the mature cottonwood trees might be able to be preserved? They're really quite beautiful, at least the ones that aren't damaged. And that's it. I'm supportive of the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Natalie? That's it. Okay, does anybody else wish to speak on this item who did not sign up? Nope. Okay, so we'll close public comment on this. Ryan, Dave, Wendy, who wants to come up and let's see if you can address that one. It's been teed up nicely for you. So let's see if you have any thoughts on that, and then you'll stay up there and we'll bring it up here to the commission.
Sorry, we had to confer, make sure we had the right answer here. So appreciate the kind words tonight about the project. So a lot of the trees are unhealthy as noted, so they have to go. And with grading, I think there's one, according to our engineer, we're looking to probably save at least one that's near the barn, but otherwise grading and all that stuff. Can't promise because it might be unhealthy, but that's the idea. But the grading for the rest of the project is probably going to preclude most of the trees from surviving. So, but we're hoping we're building in a nice urban canopy as well with the trees and landscaping we're proposing. So I don't want to say we're promising that, but we're trying to do that, and that's the idea. So
Okay, well, stay there, and I have suspicion at least one commissioner may have some thoughts about trees or raptors. So is that a raptor? Is a who? An owl, a raptor? A raptors? Okay, thank you. Yeah. So let's bring it up here to the commissioners who has questions for Ryan and the team and or staff. Wendy.
Is now the time that we can talk about the barn? I have questions about the barn.
Absolutely.
Okay, and I don't know to address this to staff or you or who, but so is the barn reservable, and who's in charge of taking those reservations? Is that?
So it'll be part of the Metro District. So it's
Okay.
going to be a publicly owned entity or project. So the question is, they're still trying to figure out the logistics, whether like you remove the doors and it's just a picnic pavilion or it's reservable. They're kind of working through that situation, but the idea is that it will be a usable space. Anything else to add there, Wendy? Sure. Okay.
Good evening, commissioners. My name is Wendy Cudmore, Hartford Homes. Do you need my address or no? Anyway, so I've been working with an architect. Infusion is our architect. And right now there is like a hayloft. And so we're looking at taking off that top floor and opening up the space because the interior of the barn, like the inside of the roof, is very, very beautiful. We've worked with the structural engineer and our architects. We expect it to be more like a picnic shelter. We haven't selected like our tables yet. We're gonna work on the interior of it. Reservable, most likely. There'll have to be some rules assigned to that, perhaps a fee. There are similar Metro District amenities throughout our communities that are open to the public with some sort of fee, and we'll have to find out where that gets put, those rules. Normally, the developer will come up with those, and then people will have the option to be there. We're still working on what that looks like, maybe weddings, maybe summer picnics, maybe just a summer pavilion. So lots of questions, but the structure will be saved. The milk shed, we will have restrooms and storage areas, what we're proposing in our plans right now. We're working through those details with our architect. And then the end of it, the southern end of the milk shed will have like an overhead that we're planning to put some outdoor picnic tables in addition to some really cool, I don't know if we have the illustrative, we're gonna build some custom farm tables on the outside that are about 14 feet long and have 2 of those. So I could talk about the amenity for a long time. So you help me know what you wanna learn.
That's good. I just have a follow-up question. So Metro District then
Mhm.
is in charge of managing it, maintaining
Yeah,
it,
so-
taking the reservations and.
That's correct.
So
That's certainly a plus. It was the last couple times when the barns come up, it wasn't certain you were going to be able to use it, save it, use it. So that's where
Right, so
we're
we've
way
been
ahead
working
on that.
with some other consultants to help verify that. So it's our intent to finalize those architectural plans, and then we'll come to the town of Timnath for a building permit. But at this point, I wasn't able to commit to that in the beginning for the milk shed, which is the structure that extends to the south, but we're incorporating some restrooms and things like that to make the amenity more usable for the community as a whole.
Other questions?
Yeah,
Tom,
I've got a few notes.
why don't you pull the mic around there? There you go.
Right. I appreciate the regrading and the drainage plan,
Yes, sir.
particularly in the northwest corner of the site. I think that was a great move, and thank you for addressing those issues I think we raised before. Also at the barn, I noticed there's 9 parking spaces off of the road there. Just like to raise a question, is it possible to add any others? I'm concerned that you're going to have a lot of off-street parking along the roadway there, otherwise blocking the bicycle lanes.
Sure. That's something you always struggle with, and you're balancing with the amount of parking. I mean, I remember coming before you, and or not coming for you, but we were talking to the town about the park and trail side where we put the pool and that, and we're kind of wrestling with what's the right amount of parking there. So, yeah, we think this is adequate for what kind of general day-to-day use. Probably when there's bigger events, we're just going to be overflow street parking. There's probably nothing we can do about it. We just trying to maximize the area of the park, minimize the parking. So we kind of compromised at this number. We thought this was kind of the right fit for what's going on in this space for general day-to-day. So sometimes there's a magic number to it, but sometimes it's kind of gut feeling and what we've done in other parks. That sort of thing. So.
Staff, you want to weigh in on that part, Tom? Because I knew you probably would have asked if that's okay.
Yeah,
Any
so
thoughts on this, Chad, on the parking?
there's not necessarily a requirement for the parking within the park itself. And I do believe that within our code, we do encourage to have our parks surrounded by local roads to accommodate that overflow parking. In our review, we did not necessarily see that as a concern, but we understand your sentiment there.
So 9 is better than none, which there still could be.
Correct.
Yeah.
As long as we have no parking or no prohibited parking along that roadway there to the north, I think that probably would work.
Right. And ideally, people are walking and riding their bikes to the park too, right?
Let's hope so. And then one final question, the trees. I think that's a very good point. If we could preserve any of those trees, recognize that it may not be possible. But if you look at landscape plan LP 106, it shows where the existing trees are and where the new trees are proposed. There is an open space just off of Yancey Street where 2 of the existing trees look to be in in an open, proposed open space areas, that may be the ones to save,
Okay, we'll take a look
if
at
that's
that.
possible. That's all the questions I had, Phil.
Thanks. Other questions?
Just a quick one.
Lisa?
My question is, where is the trail? Because this connects the trail, right? The Poudre River Trail. Where is that going to be?
Chad, do you want to show it? It's running parallel. Okay. You have the mouse. Do you want to just run the trail? It's going to run right along Three Bells there.
Okay, so it is going to go along there. It's not going through the community. It's not meandering anyway. It's going to be a straight shot down. And then, yeah,
Correct.
okay. But that is part of this is to this development is going to have that. I mean, we're kind of connecting it piece by piece by piece by piece, and this is one of the pieces.
Correct. And Dave, do you actually want to call him top of it? Or Wendy, sorry, Wendy.
Dave Thorpe, Hartford Homes, 4801 Goodman Road, Timnath, Colorado. When we worked on Trailside years ago, I think, and staff can correct me if I'm wrong here, the future plan for the Poudre Trail is to come through properties to the west of Trailside and Draley. So Trailside accommodated the Poudre River Trail on the south side before that turned to the south, and then brought an interim condition across the park and then down the west side of Three Bell. This will continue that interim condition down the west side of Three Bell with a 10-foot paved, 2-foot soft surface shoulder. But ultimately, the trail will be routed through properties to the west at the time that they develop. And I believe it runs on the south side of River Pass Road from the Bucklighter property, Draley edge in the future. And that piece of it, I think, has already been constructed as well.
And this is not really a question, it's more a comment back to the parking issue. It seems to me in this community particularly, and if it is run by the Metro District, it is kind of this own little development. Yeah, walk. Just saying.
Anything else?
No,
Lisa?
sir.
Marty?
So just a basic question, because I couldn't find this one in the past notes. The 111, that's the same as what we looked at before?
Correct. Yep, that was what was proposed in the sketch plan, which created that density.
Okay, thanks.
Mike? Okay. What, I recall a question coming up about the property to the west. Anything you can share about I believe the door was open, if you will, about the possibility that you would go farther to the west in some point in the future. And I'm not certain that's within our purview to ask, but I just thought I'd ask because somebody else might have in whatever you can tell us about the possibility of a further expansion.
Sure. I have very little
I
that I can
anticipated
share.
that.
Yeah. We designed this to be able to connect to that property. And then you can see the little paved piece down in the corner. That's where the road would connect to River Pass Road in the future. So that right away is being dedicated by this plat. I am not aware of future development plans on that parcel by any developer at this time.
Okay.
But
well,
we designed it to be able to be connected to Trailside and
All right.
Draley.
That's all. Yeah. And I didn't have any agenda there necessarily. I remember Tom, it was really came up in the course of talking about drainage, which
Does impact the drainage, and I think that some of
Sure. Yeah, we work carefully with staff to ensure that future considerations were accommodated now.
that's what I was thinking about. So staff, anything else you want to add on this?
Nothing else.
Don, anything at all? You addressed the drainage a couple times on this. Okay. Commissioners, anything else on this item? Okay. With that, do I have a motion on business item 6A Draley subdivision final plat?
I move to recommend approval.
A second? Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's approved on a 5-0 vote. Thank you all. Business item 6B, Harmony Minor Subdivision, third filing, second amendment. Chad.
Yes, commissioners, if it's all right with you, I was going to present the next two together since they are directly related to one another, if that's okay with you, and then you can vote on them separately after our presentations.
Everybody all right with that? Yep. Okay, very good. We'll have separate public comments on them too.
Correct. So item 6B is a minor subdivision proposal for the Harmony subdivision. The owner is Harmony LLC, represented by Byron Collins and Mark Tingy. The applicant is JR Engineering, represented by Ken Merritt. The subject property is Tract B within the Harmony third filing First Amendment. And since this is a land division creating fewer than 6 lots, it does fall under the minor subdivision process here. So the minor subdivision is just redefining the boundary of Tract B, creating an outlot within the intent to be included in the development of an adjacent property, which will be discussed in item 6C. The tract consists of roughly 131 acres and includes open space for the Harmony subdivision. The newly created outlot located on the western boundary of Harmony subdivision will consist of 0.303 acres or roughly 13,000 square feet of vacant land for future development. Tract B will be reduced to 130.71 acres. And both properties will remain zoned RE estate residential, conforming to their comprehensive plan for this area. And per the Timnath Land Use Code, a neighborhood meeting is required for residential minor subdivision applications, which was held on June 12th. An overview of those discussions are included in your packet. Item 6C is for a McMorris sketch plan. This plan proposal is for McMorris, generally located south of Busgrove Road, west of Harmony Club, and north of Timnath Lakes. The subdivision is made up of 7 parcels currently owned by SC Land Estates and Timnath Estates LLC, represented by Alex Schuman, and Harmony LLC and Postmodern Development, represented by Byron Collins and Martini. These properties are included in the McMorris property, Old Timnath Estates, Lot 206, Block 10 of Harmony Club, and Outlot 1 from the proposal in item 6B. All of which have been annexed to the town and designated as estate residential in the official Timnath zoning map. And again, this is just where we are in the review process, and just a quick background on what actually sketch plan is for any of those listening in. It is a conceptual layout of a proposed development creating more than 6 lots. This is the first step of the major subdivision process, identifying the intended density, land uses, traffic circulation, and future parks and or trail connections. All of these are reviewed for compliance with the town code. The plan is providing a maximum of 28 lots within the 46.7 acres. The proposal will include a pocket park, a regional trail connection in accordance to the town's PROST framework map, and roughly 22 acres of open space, which is exceeding the required 20% for this area. A maximum density would be 0.6 dwelling units, complying with the comprehensive plan of low density residential and the existing zoning designation of estate residential, which is a maximum of 1 dwelling unit per acre. The proposed plan will consist of estate residential lots that include a variety of product types similar to the adjacent Harmony Club to the east. Again, a neighborhood meeting was required for a sketch plan, which was also held on the June 12th date. And the overview of that is also included in the packet. Both of these applications were reviewed against the Land Use Code Technical Criteria Manual, and staff is moving to recommend approval of the Harmony Minor Subdivision and McMorris sketch plan. With that, I will turn it over to Ken.
Thank you, Chad. My name is Ken Merritt with JR, Planners, Engineers, and Landscape Architects, representing the applicants this evening, SC Land Estates, Timnath Estates, Harmony LLC, and then Postmodern Development. As always, Chad does such a great job introducing. It takes I tend to be a bit redundant on as it relates to what he's already introduced, but we'll be somewhat redundant tonight. But thank you, Chad. Appreciate it. As review, the property is located just south of Busgrove It lies directly west of the Harmony subdivision, approximately a 3/4 of a mile east of County Road 5 and about a mile north, 3/4 of a mile north of Harmony Road. The property is proposed as the McMorris subdivision, 47 plus or minus acres, and is zoned already and annexed to the town of Timnath and zoned RE. Taking a little closer look at the property, I do want to review the surrounding zoning of the property. Directly north of us, northwest of us is the White Wing annexation that was recently done, zoned RE. Due north of us is the Timnath Reservoir and open space. That is actually in the county. It's zoned RR2 in Larimer County. Directly east of us is the Harmony subdivision, the majority of which is zoned RE, but there is R3 and CMU zoning. But the land directly adjacent and contiguous to the McMorris development is all zoned RE. And directly south of us along our south boundary line and west boundary line is the Timnath Landings development, and it's all zoned R2. It's all zoned R2. And then there's a small enclave just east of the Loudon Ditch, which actually, excuse me, Loudon Ditch, the Lake Canal, which bifurcates the property, a small portion on the north, approximately 10 acres on the north, and the remainder of the property south of the Lake Canal, small parcel of property on our west boundary line, which is also in the county, and it's zoned RR2. As Chad pointed out, this project is accompanied by a minor subdivision. We're actually subdividing a portion of Tract B of the Harmony subdivision, third filing, in order to be able to assign that outlot 1, it's being called, which is approximately 13,000 square feet, to the McMorris property. And I'll use this map just to point out lot 10 within the Harmony subdivision, which is already a legal lot. It is not part of this minor subdivision, but lot 10, block 10 of the Harmony subdivision second filing also will be assembled with several other properties within the McMorris development. And that sort of segues to the property, the assemblage of property that's being made for the McMorris subdivision on an aggregate basis. Chad already pointed some of this out, but the property shown in purple are 3 individual parcels of property previously subdivided in the town of Timnath, called Old Timnath Estates, represents approximately 9.5 acres. Along the south boundary of that property is the Lake Canal, which bifurcates that parcel to the north, directly adjacent to Bus Grove, from the larger and greater parcel of property to the south. The McMorris property, which is approximately 34.2 acres, also zoned RE. The area in the northeast shown in red is block 10, which I just mentioned before, lot 206, block 10 of the Harmony subdivision, which will be brought into the McMorris development. And then our new outlot 1 being created with the minor subdivision, which is approximately 13,000 square feet. So all total, property is just shy of approximately 47 acres of property. Now diving into the actual sketch plan itself, I want to point out that the access to the McMorris sketch plan, or to the future McMorris subdivision, is made from Bus Grove. There are 2 points of connection, one on our far east boundary of the property, and a second point of connection about 1,000 feet further to the west along Bus Grove. The road is proposed to meander through the site where it crosses on the west Lake Canal, and then meanders back to the south and up back to the north and reconnects to Bus Grove itself. The roadway would meet the town's standards for a local street section, 60-foot right-of-way, a 34-foot roadway width. The road would also include 5-foot detached sidewalks and 6-foot tree lawn, with trees planted approximately 40 feet on center throughout the roadway section of property. The area shown in tan, those tan bubbles, represent the land area to be actually subdivided with the preliminary plat for proposed preliminary plat for the property. That area represents approximately 21 acres of land, which would be subdivided into no more than 28 lots. The 21 acres represents approximately 45% of the total site area. Moving on to that area, which is shown in green, is all intended to be dedicated open space. Now, the McMorris development will actually, we'll talk in more detail about this in a moment, will be part of the open space will be owned and managed and maintained by Harmony LLC and will be part of the Harmony Club development as it relates to the HOA and the maintenance of the open space. The open space represents approximately 22 acres or 47% open space within the development. And I would expect of that 22 acres that perhaps 20 or 25% of it might be irrigated turf and manicured mowed grass, representing approximately 5 acres. The remainder would be native seed, very similar to what you see within the Harmony Club development, where native seeding has occurred in some of the outlying areas of the Harmony development itself. Additionally, within the open space, the McMorris subdivision will actually help to facilitate a large portion of the town's Parks and Recreation regional trail system. Shown in blue is a regional trail, 10-foot wide regional trail, pedestrian and bike trail that will be extended through the development. It'll begin at our southeast corner of the property where it will connect to a regional trail, a portion of the regional trail, which is being built by the Timnath Landings development. It'll extend in sort of a northwesterly direction in our open space along the south boundary of the property, where it'll terminate at our west boundary, eventually to be continued by the Timnath Landings development further to the west. At our west boundary, the trail will turn north, cross the Lake Canal, and will eventually connect up to the right-of-way of Bus Grove. That 10-foot trail will be continued along the south boundary of Bus Grove until it reaches the western entrance to the proposed development off of Bus Grove, where it'll terminate as a 10-foot trail. There'll be a pedestrian actuated crossing signal there and a crosswalk, providing a safe pedestrian and bicycle crossing across Bus Grove. And eventually, and hopefully, at some point, that trail will be extended by the town north into the Timnath Reservoir and open space area. East of the westerly entrance off of Bus Grove, there is an existing, and that's shown in yellow, there's an existing 5-foot pedestrian walk, which continues along the right-of-way to our eastern boundary line, where it eventually runs along the south boundary of Bus Grove, adjacent to the Harmony development. It's important to point out that within the McMorris sketch plan, there is no direct connection from the McMorris subdivision, proposed McMorris subdivision, to the Harmony golf course or the Harmony Club development. The connection or access to Harmony Club would be made through the pedestrian walk running along the south side of Bus Grove itself. Additionally, within the open space area, there will be a pocket park. The town's requirement for a development of this size is a minimum half acre. That active pocket park area will be only a half acre in size, but it'll be located within a much larger open space area of several acres that will be able to provide active play as well. And I think that concludes my presentation. So thank you very much. Happy to answer any questions or comments you might have for me tonight.
Stay there, Ken, while we have anybody signed up for public comment. No, we don't on either item, I presume. Okay, so we open public comment on item 6B. Now we close public comment. We'll take 6B first. So bring it up here. Commissioners, questions on, shall we take 6B first? There doesn't matter what we ask questions on, I presume not. We can ask 6B, 6C. Okay, very good. Commissioners, questions? Wendy, all right, we'll stick with our
All right.
end of the table plan here.
So I have one comment and then one question for you. My comment is for you, Chad. I want to thank you very much for every time you start a presentation, you show where it is. It helps me, but I think it really helps the people that are watching. So thank you for that. My question for you is, can you please go back one slide and just show us, you said the pedestrian crossing, is that red?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
sorry. I don't have the
No.
ability to point. Perhaps Chad, could you help me out here? So the regional trail, the regional pedestrian bike trail will extend along the south side of Busgrove's 10-foot walk, which is the standard for the regional trail. It'll terminate at the western side of our western entrance, and there'll be a pedestrian actuated signal, which is basically a push button signal that you press. You've seen the LED flashing LED lights. Now, what's really critical about this point of crossing is that it's at the high point of Busgrove. So it really provides a very safe location for pedestrians as well as vehicles visibility. So you can see quite well both east and west at this location. And it's probably the safest of all places to cross into the Timnath Reservoir and Open Space Park area.
Thank you. I know exactly what you're talking about. So
Thank you,
it's-
Ms. Neely.
Other questions?
Yeah.
Tom?
I had a question.
What's the nature of the bridge across the Lake Canal on Acre Circle?
Well, there's actually probably two bridge-like structures. One would be a box culvert, likely for the roadway crossing across the Lake Canal. That'll happen where our road heads south. There'll be likely a box crossing, box culvert crossing that will happen there to allow for vehicle crossing across the Lake Canal. As far as the pedestrian and bike trail, that'll be a 10-foot wide pedestrian bridge crossing since the walkway itself is 10 feet, so it'll probably narrow down a little bit, but it'll be likely a prefabricated bridge structure. Could also possibly be a box culvert as well, but we haven't gotten to that point in the design yet to really define what it is, but there'll be both a pedestrian crossing, pedestrian bike crossing, as well as a vehicular crossing across Lake Canal.
Great. And then one other question. We've got a number of really critical utilities and water lines and ditches and so forth that all cross through here. At some point in the life of those utilities, particularly the water lines, somebody's going to need construction access to that property. And construction access from a paved road is going to be critical. Is there plans to have a designated right of way for construction access from the new development to those utilities?
Sure. Well, we have 2 points of access off Busgrove, and those one or both of those points will serve as construction access off of the arterial roadway itself. Again, there are no other roadway connections, vehicular connections, either to the east or to the west of the development. It is a single looped road. So it'll serve as those access points will serve as construction access. And you're correct, there are a number of existing utilities and some ditches. There's an existing ditch called the Aiken lateral ditch. That is going to be piped through the site. That ditch that surface ditch will go away and it'll eventually be piped through the site. It runs, Chad, if you could point to that perhaps, it runs sort of through the middle of the site in an east-west direction. That's the Lake Canal, but then right there is the Aikens lateral, and then it turns and runs along through the Harmony development and eventually crosses Busgrove to the north.
Great. I just want to make sure we're not going to impact, for example, the Greeley pipeline, because that's going to be a real critical.
Go ahead.
Yep, Mark Tingy from the development. I can help you on the major pipelines, if you've already brought up, is the Greeley water line. It continues that the easements for both of those pipelines go through our property to the east, but more so northwest, and eventually cross and hit Buzzgrove. So there's easy access up and down that utility easement, which they have. And the property owners have granted them that easement, that they can traverse it however they choose to traverse it and be able to have access off of a public road. So there's plenty of access to the major there, and there's not any development obviously in their easement. So the cross section that has the most impact that you're referring to has access points to it already, and will have future access as it all develops out off of Buzzgrove, where it connects, where it crosses Buzz. Does that answer your question? Or help?
I think so. I just
If
want to
you
make
take-
sure we're not restricting them.
Yeah, see where the blue arrow is on the end? If that will continue that easement area, and eventually it hits Buzzgrove as well. And their equipment, their vehicles, they do it now. They come through our piece of property, and they'll have access on that area as well.
Thank you.
Ken,
Perhaps I didn't understand your question fully, so thanks.
Ken, does the trail in blue, the dot line, is anticipated to be built at the same time the rest of the infrastructure, meaning the road acre circle? Will that be
Correct.
built at the same time and connect to the landings? Or Timnath Lakes, I
Well,
guess it's called.
the landings walk pedestrian bike trail is not built to our southeast property line, I don't believe at this point, but it eventually will be. What's shown in blue will be built by this development. And then that portion which goes north of Busgrove is a future walkway likely to be built by the town of Timnath at some future date.
Staff, anything you could add about that trail and that connection across Busgrove?
This location being proposed hasn't been master planned with the reservoir yet. So we have to look in how it plays in with the rest of the reservoir. But for now, what they proposed is acceptable, but we don't have a receiving trail on the other end planned, designed, or in the master plan at the moment. But
What about to Timnath Lakes?
So Timnath Lakes, as they develop their portions on the south side, they'll build it. If this is built before that and there's a gap, the town may front that and then have them reimburse the town so that there's not a dead end trail one way and a dead end trail the other way. So we'd make the connection between it and then get reimbursed by landings.
Other questions on that or other items, other issues? Lisa?
Just a couple of, one is a curiosity thing. The 10 acres that is to the west of this, that's there, but it's banked by Lake Canal. Is that available to become a part of this? Is it something that is just privately held? I mean, and the whole property is very interesting just because of the trees and the, everything that's on there. What happens to that little pocket?
Well, the property as it is today is not part of the development.
Right.
Perhaps Mark Tingy could address that a little bit in a little more detail. I'm not sure if there have been conversations with that landowner, but it has been recently made as part of an enclave by the annexation of the property to the north. So at some point it would be, theoretically, if it were ever to redevelop, it would be annexed to the town. But we're not providing any connectivity to that. In fact, there's a fairly sizable detention pond between our allotted area and the property, subject property that you're mentioning. So I don't really have anything to add to that with regards to any interest they might have being part of this. Wasn't contemplated. If you don't mind, I might just make one other comment to what Matt said about the trail. Where we show the trail in red, there is a dirt road there today. So there's actually the ability to get across that road. And then if you're on a mountain bike, you can easily traverse that area. It's pretty flat.
Where is the actual entrance to the reservoir in relation to your roads?
That's a good question. So Chad, maybe you can help point again to me, but access to it is where Chad is pointing, which is offset from our easterly access about 250 feet. And we did an extensive analysis to determine that that offset intersection on Arterial Road is actually not an issue because they do not have conflicting turning movements. So access to our development, the westbound left-hand turn lane versus access to the lake, which doesn't get even daily use or weekly use very often. The eastbound left-hand turn lane is not in conflict. Those two turning movements aren't in conflict. So that offset intersection actually functions just fine as it is.
Next question. So Busgrove obviously is developed up to a certain point and then going west, and then it's not very well, it's decaying over the top of the hill and then down.
Mhm.
What portion of that is this development going to improve?
Well, the old Timnath Estates development actually did some improvement. The city of town of Timnath also did an extensive amount of improvement on Busgrove, providing the turn lanes, the center turn lane on Busgrove, which is part of this development. Now, I was not involved in the old Timnath Estates project, so I can't tell you where any cost sharing or perhaps Mr. Toronto could address that a little more detail, but that
Your improvements go to about where the arrow is now. So we have no abutting property further down from that which is already developed.
The improvements already go in the area of
Correct.
blue?
Those are already done. The abutting properties on Busgrove to our development are completed.
Sure, but going to the west.
Going to the west does not abut our property anymore. And so that would be future development. Whoever is abutting those properties would then be the
I
developer.
thought the improvements pretty much ended kind of just over the top of that.
They do, about where that end of the blue arrow is going to the west.
Right, that's where the curb and gutter ends and the pavement third lane ends. The only thing missing is a portion of walkway west of our westerly entrance.
Okay. And then the current McMorris house is going to remain, correct?
Say that again,
The
please?
current house that's on that property is going to remain? or is it
Yes,
gonna
the
be
existing
destroyed?
home as well as the barn will be maintained and likely renovated and repurposed. Correct.
So back to the trees, we're all going to ask about that. What's happening? Because that is a place that has a
Sure.
lot of growth on it.
There's a significant number of trees on the property, you're correct. Many of which are actually in very poor and declining condition. We're going to, along the Lake Canal, we're going to save as many of the old cottonwoods and spruce as is possible. Likely, most of the trees that are on the actual proposed, within those bubbles of residential lotted area, likely the grading for those lots will cause those trees to need to be removed. But actually, many of those trees, most of the trees within those lots are really in very poor condition and will likely be removed with the overall grading of the property. But those along the Lake Canal, to the extent possible, will be saved. Very similarly to what we've done in the Harmony development, where the old cottonwoods, to the extent again possible, have remained because they're a valuable resource and amenity for the property.
Okay. What you say that there is no access from this property into Harmony subdivision. What is going to prevent somebody from just walking onto the golf course? And
Well, Mark, do you want to address that?
Good question.
not that that's a bad thing.
No, it's a good, it would be, meaning you don't want to mix public with private golfers and danger and errant balls or whatever, because there's certainly plenty of errant balls. Just go hunt for a few out there and like my grandkids, and they just love it. That's one of the main purposes of having backyards and those private properties and those bubbles abut the golf course. The intent of that is there's plenty of open space that's not readily accessible to the golf course. to keep a buffer, a safety zone from the golf course to the residential. And so, yes, there'll be some backyard lots that will abut the golf course, which is the same thing that we have throughout the community right now internally. Most every home in Harmony, well, every home in Harmony either abuts open space or golf course, and in many cases, both. And so this will follow that same flavor. That's why we've worked jointly with Alex Schumann and SC Land to be able to have this have the same look and feel of the rest of Harmony. Part of that is selfish, which I think is beneficial for everyone, meaning wanting to maintain the same look and feel as we have and create the safety zones, the buffers between the golf course and the public.
So more of that safety zone and natural buffers versus a 10-foot wall.
Correct. No question. We do not even allow 10-foot privacy walls within Harmony unless it's adjacent to and a part of their patio area or adjacent to their home structure. Anything on a property line is open rail and no solid fencing. And so this would follow that same trend and have those same kind of buffers with if you can keep Byron from planting a tree, then you are one of a person that I know with lots of talent, because the trees are going to get additional trees are always something in the making, and the placement of them is always critical and an important part of everything that we do in Harmony. So that's our relationship with Alex, is to keep it's synergistic. We want the golf course to have the same kind of buffers that it has in the rest of the community and the look and feel that it has with residential, and to keep the traffic flow, so to speak, in a safe manner as well.
Okay. Now, what about to the south end of the landings or lakes? Is that they're going to be, some of it is a grading because there's kind of a ridge there where it drops off into that. Is that going to be just landscaped? It'll have the trail as well.
Yeah, where the blue trail is open space that would most likely be the native. We have much of our trail system right now goes through native areas. For example, the new section we just finished in the northeast corner of Harmony along Buzz Grove. A lot of that meandering trail is all through native, but it's done very, very tastefully with additional landscaping and accent features, stones. That's a hallmark of Byron, and that's a skill set that we don't hire out. It comes internally, and that'll have that flavor to it. We've communicated closely with Michael Kirkendall from Catellis and to the south of us, and they were concurrent in wanting to be able to have that be a nice buffer zone as well. And they were well online with what we've proposed here, and we jointly talked through that with them as well.
And that was going to be kind of my final question comment, is how much of this landscaping can be maintained in kind of a natural state. It's number one, it's less time intensive, it's less water intensive, it's less, and it
Good
also,
comments.
there's a lot of wildlife in that area. It's maintaining that. So is
Yes,
there
good comments.
a good portion of that that's going to be
Correct.
natural?
Yeah, you've already got a good vision of that. If you were to look to that, the open space to the east of this project, it's very native. We actually developed our own seed mix with Arkansas Valley Seed that we replant when earth is moved and tilled, we replant. Sometimes we have to wait for Mother Nature to bring it all in. Sometimes we're able to do some irrigation on top to establish it, but that area would have the same flavor, same type of seed mix as the rest of the abutting pieces that it has to it. It's that prairie continuity with a finished look of around the neighborhood site or the home sites, and that would continue throughout this project the same way.
Thank you. I don't mean to be so,
No, good
just kind of on with
questions.
the questions. It's a beautiful piece of land. It's a
Very much
beautiful
so.
property, and to be able to do it right, it's going to be developed. It's just a matter of whether you do it right or not. And so it's
And we see that in the same way. That's why we were grateful that we have a relationship enough with Alex to be able to jointly talk through how this could best be done. To address the trees a little bit more, there are a lot of species in there that are overgrown and have been neglected for quite some time from the McMorris estate. And I think in the overall development of this, it'll be much cleaner and healthier and maintained because Harmony Club owns open space. We do not have common interest property. And so we take the responsibility of taking care of that open space. And so it's prudent for us to look at what's the most effective way to do that. And most of the time it's cleaning it up, getting in the pickup truck with Byron on the weekend with a pair of saws and snips and cleaning out the excess and just making it much, much healthier. And then in the long run, it survives. Neglect usually does not work well for you.
Thank you.
Next, Marty.
Thank you, Mayor. So I guess one thing I'd say on the natural areas, if you make that like Harmony, it's going to be great because you seem to really understand natural areas versus no maintenance areas. So that'll be good. On the trees, just one last question on this, and this is kind of for staff here is, when we're determining healthy versus unhealthy trees, is that at the sole discretion of an applicant, or is that something that's determined in consultation with you?
So typically that is done by the applicant. We do suggest that any trees that are can be preserved are looked into and inventory is taken of that. I don't know if you've ever encountered a tree or set of trees in a particular parcel that the staff has felt strongly to support. If we did, we would make that recommendation to keep those. But typically that is done by the applicant team to review those to make sure that they're healthy and able to remain on the parcel.
Good question again. An extensive part of our budget is trees. We'll preserve a tree through the use of, Byron has a skill set again in trees, and we'll preserve a tree as long as it's sustainable. In fact, we'll keep it longer probably sometimes than we should unless it creates public safety issues, which, for example, the roundabout going up Club Drive right now, we kept that tree for a long time because it was an important part of the look and what we wanted. But each year it seemed like we'd be cutting another piece off of it or whatever. And it's expensive. It's very expensive. But it's an important part of what we think is the overall look. So when you remove a tree, it's only done because it doesn't have viability long-term. We don't do it just to clear out an area. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't keep the values of the land up. People want the trees. So there's no real incentive for the developer to remove and destroy a tree because it lessens the value of the property around it. So it's really done in a very methodical way, saying this tree doesn't have longevity to it. These Russian olives are too dense and are a species we don't want to really propagate a lot. They're smarter to move out during the development stage and take out with heavy equipment rather than to try to do it at a later time. But I think we've demonstrated to staff in the past and to the town that we're wise stewards with the trees.
Okay, thanks. And then the last thing is just, I remember when this first came up, this area first came up, was it 2017, somewhere around there? So it seems like it was envisioned a little bit differently. I don't know if any of you remember the specifics there. It seems like this is less dense than it was when it was originally talked about. Because I vaguely remember then some of the controversy was around, they were wanting it more dense, and I think it was a different developer at that point. Yeah.
Are you referring to when there was a comp plan amendment proposed?
Yeah.
And they had intended that to be more of the R2
Yeah.
So the 3 to 4 unit per acre,
Yeah.
from that standpoint, this one is keeping in line with the rural residential 1 unit and 1 unit per acre and less. But yeah, that was the intent back in that 2017 realm.
That's all I had. Thank you.
Mike, anything? Anybody else? Okay,
Thank you very much.
I think we have to open public comment on 6C or on 6C.
You need to finish 6.
Finish 6B and then we'll open. Okay, thanks. All right, so 6B, if there's no further comment, we've opened and closed public comment on that. We didn't have any public comment. So do I have a motion then on item 6B, Harmony Minor Subdivision, third filing, second amendment? Second?
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries on a 5-0 vote. Okay, now, item 6C, we open public comment. Natalie, I presume we have nobody on that one either. So we close public comment. Any further questions or comments for developer or staff on item 6C? Chad, do you have?
Yeah, I would like to make a clarification. Since this is a conceptual document, there were questions about the trail location and landscaping within this. Just wanted to let you know and clarify that that may not be the ultimate locations for these trails. As we go through the platting process, we will continue to monitor these and go through our technical criteria. These concerns may be vetted and there may be slight tweaks to where these locations are, but I just wanted to clarify, this is just the conceptual. There could be some changes to that, specifically the crossing of Bus Grove or other areas on the trail.
Okay, questions on that or any other further questions on any aspect of this for staff or developer commissioners? Okay. No, okay. All right, so with that, I'll entertain a motion on item 6C, McMorris sketch plan.
Motion to approve item 6C, McMorris sketch plan.
For a second? Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries on a 5-0 vote. All right, very good. Thank you. Thanks, Ken,
Thank you.
Byron, Mark. Item 6D, vacation of a portion of Sweatsville Zoo Road right away. And I know the question will come up. If you could please, Chad, and I know you, oh no, Kevin, you have this, right? Explain the concept of vacation in this context, if you would, please. And I'm sure you'll do that anyway, so.
Thank you, Chairperson. So just as we did at this point, probably about 3 weeks ago, or even about a month ago, where we had the vacation of right of way for Prospect Road. This is vacation of existing right of way that's essentially no longer needed within the town. So in 2021, when the Ladera subdivision platted their initial minor subdivision, that created the right of way for the Whitesville frontage or the Whitesville Road that was then connecting down to County Road 5. And generally around that same time, CDOT vacated the frontage road right of way that was along I-25 that connected basically Whitesville through Sweatsville down to Kechter Road. So with that vacation of right of way from CDOT that they then removed the frontage road, it left this portion that you see in blue that was kind of like a remaining leftover piece of right of way that were still within the town. That right of way there was annexed to the town as part of we'll just call it the Costco annexation back in 2014. When that property annexed, it annexed that portion of right of way as well at that time. So with the frontage road being vacated from by CDOT, the extension of Whitesell down through to County Road 5, there isn't a need for a connection east-west of Sweatsville Zoo Road. So the adjacent property owners, Connell LLC, they have requested of the town that that portion of right-of-way get vacated. And the reasons for that is that as I mentioned, that creates virtually a dead end east-west portion of road right there at the I-25 frontage. So there's no connections that are needed there. And then it allows that development to utilize that right-of-way for for development, as they own the triangle piece just north of where the road curves, just south of the pediatric urgent care. They own both sides on both sides of the road. So the vacation of right of way allows them to actually utilize the entirety of that property. So town has reviewed this vacation of right of way against town code. And as I mentioned, the criteria that it generally meets is that it's no longer necessary for the public use and convenience, just because it dead ends into the I-25 right of way. And then the other part is that there's essentially a right of way exchange to where they provided the new connection north-south with the extension of Whitesell Road, where the that little portion is no longer needed. As I'd mentioned in my staff report, the right of way will actually stop for Sweatsville Zoo Road. It will stop on the west side of the intersection there with going north into Costco and south into Floor and Decor. That's where the right of way will continue and stop. So basically from the west side of that intersection to the west is the portions that's being vacated.
And therein is why the English language is so hard for people to learn. Okay. All right. So questions for staff? Obviously, is there public comment?
Technically, there is public comment.
Okay, well, let's open public comment. And we'll close public comment on this. And commissioners, questions for staff on this? Seems like a no-brainer, certainly. Very good.
So I haven't been back there. So that frontage road is no longer there?
Correct. The CDOT closed the frontage road from Kechter north to where the Connell asphalt plant entrance is. They closed that, removed all of that road. Currently, the road exists now down south to the Connell asphalt plant, just to still provide them access for the time being. But once they move and CDOT widens and finishes their road improvements, the entirety of that frontage road will go away. So the portion of the road still exists at this point, but where it stops on the west side, where that blue line stops, that actually then hits into CDOT right of way and CDOT's ownership and not in the town. And right now it's just basically an access easement for the Connell asphalt pit.
And how do you get on that road? I'm just curious, from the south.
You can't. From the south, from Kechter, you cannot get onto that road.
So when you say that the concrete people use it to get access, how are they? Even
From the
getting out?
north.
From the north.
Yeah,
Okay,
they
gotcha.
still utilize that road. So where the road curves, that road will still exist, but it'll just be in the ownership of Connell LLC to continue for their use because they are the sole basically need for that road to exist right now.
Other questions on our vacation? Where's Chevy Chase when we need him?
I have a question on this one. What's the downside if we don't vacate this or we don't vacate a portion of this? And where I'm going is, is there any advantage of keeping even a portion of this that still allows them to use the lot, but should there be something there that maybe creates a traffic issue? It gives the town more leverage in making them fix that traffic issue?
Not necessarily, because if we keep it as is, or even a portion of it, that means the town is still responsible for maintaining it. So at that point, we would still have a couple 100 feet of road that won't really be utilized, that is still in the town's ownership, that we still have to maintain. We have to spend resources to keeping that up, and things like that. So in policing with that as well. And with basically that road dead ending and not even with a cul-de-sac or anything like that, there's just really no purpose to keeping a portion of right of way like that.
Okay, so it doesn't give us any leverage to fix anything.
No, having a portion of right of way like that doesn't really fix much of a traffic congestion or anything, because it's basically a road to nowhere.
Yeah. And generally on that south side of Harmony, there's really not traffic issues to speak of that I've experienced ever. And the outlet onto 5 makes it even better. But it was just, I was looking at, is there ways to keep our options open? Because on the north side, we're very limited. We know that.
Yep, and especially with CDOT having their right of way up to the property line, essentially, there's not additional right of way to have with that, from that standpoint. So there's really not, like I said, it's kind of a dead end, a road to nowhere at that point.
Okay.
Yeah, from a leverage standpoint, yeah, I think you've got all you need with the development process for the property to the south. I mean, having that right away would not add anything.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions on this item? No. Okay, staff, anything else? No. All right, entertain a motion on item 60, vacation of a portion of Swatsville Zoo Road right away. Have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the motion carries on a 5-0 vote. Reports. Commissioners. Anybody? The only thing I have to report is weather permitting. Don't forget the huge event coming up here, that certainly the talk of the athletic town right now. And make sure we have plenty of athletic trainers on hand. Sports medicine on hand, and
maybe an ambulance.
Pediatric urgent care probably is sponsoring this event, are they not? It appears certainly to, yeah, you see how it certainly appears to yours truly, who's having to continually shift gears here. Anyway, promises to be a great event. Interesting event anyway. Anything else? Commissioners, staff, anything you want to add? Don, Natalie, Corey? Very good. All right, I'll entertain a motion on adjournment.
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed? We're adjourned.